Hey guys, this is Admin. Welcome to another Datapack showcase video. Real quick, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to all of you. We just hit 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. That is truly incredible. I never thought that I'd make it nearly this far, and it really means the world to me that you guys all support the work that I do. That being said, if you are not subscribed, please do hit that subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me, and it really does a lot to support the channel and the work that I'm doing. Anyway, enough of that. Let's get on with the video. As you can see behind me, we have a lot of swords. These swords were made for my good friend Sub for his channel Sub's World. The video should be on the screen right now, and there is an iCard in the top right if you want to go watch it. It's a really well-made video, so I would suggest taking a look at that. And I mean, I wrote the script and data pack for the video. I might be a bit biased, but that's okay. Alright, so we've added 16 new swords with this data pack and resource pack. The whole idea was that they all needed to have unique functionality, so I can't just have swords that do maybe 1 more damage, and then 2 more damage than a diamond sword, then 3 more damage. That's super boring, so we're not going to do that. Instead, we have swords that all have unique abilities. Now, they have unique abilities so much so that I don't actually have enough time in this video to cover all 16 of them. So, this video is going to be split into 2 parts. In part 1, we are going to be covering these swords. And in part 2, which should come out in a couple days, we'll be covering these 8 swords. Also, feel free to leave your suggestion in the comments below of a sword that I could add. Anyway, sorry, that was kind of a long intro, but let's jump right into the swords. Let's get started with, what should we go with? I think the End Crystal Sword. Now, in your survival world, obviously you won't just be in creative mode and be able to grab the item off of an item frame. You will need to craft these. So to do that, let's go into survival mode. You'll need a dropper. You'll place it facing upwards and drop a crafting table on top of it. This, as you've probably seen in my other videos, gives you a custom crafter. Inside the custom crafter, if we take a stick and 2 end crystals, combine them together, you will get the End Crystal Sword. So, what does the End Crystal Sword do? Well, it deals damage to mobs based off of an exponential equation. If we look at the sword's stats itself, you'll see that it does 1 attack damage. But the lore of the item says that it does increasing damage per hit. So, where did my cow go? If I hit this cow, I will do 1 heart. Damage is dealt in half hearts, so 1 point of damage. But now when I hit it again, I will do twice that amount, so 2. Now when I hit it, I will do 4. And it should die. However, if you're understanding how that would actually work, the next attack would have done 8 damage, and then 16, then 32, and so on. So, let's summon in another mob. As you recall, the cow took 3 hits to kill. This will probably take 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So one thing that makes this sword kind of interesting is that killing a low health mob, such as a cow, and killing a high health mob, such as a zombie, really didn't take a very different amount of swings. Meanwhile, if I just had like an enchanted diamond sword, I could 1-hit kill that zombie. Okay then, admin, you might be asking, why would I ever want to use a sword? Well, because it's exponential and it keeps increasing, let's summon a wither. And I'm actually going to go into creative so that it doesn't make a mess. It looks like it wants to go over there. So let's hit this. 1, 2, and watch the health bar up top. This will be a good example of this too. So 3 hits, 4 hits. You'll see it's going down bigger and bigger chunks. So that was 9 hits to kill the wither. No other sword in the game could do that. So, essentially, the End Crystal Sword is a fairly weak sword for average use, but for boss fights, it is very powerful. Oh, and just as a quick note, this does not work in PvP, because it is editing the health values of the mobs with NBT data, which cannot be done for players. Alright, on to the next sword. This is going to be a bit quicker. We have the Totem of Undying Sword. It can be crafted like so, exactly as expected. It has a stick, a totem, and another totem. The Totem of Undying Sword is essentially a slightly slower diamond sword. It can be used as a weapon, but it is not actually a sword. So we're not getting sweep attacks. You can see I can break the ground with it. That's because it is actually a totem. This means that if I'm in survival mode and maybe I take a bad fall, it will save my life. So yeah, the Totem of Undying Sword is pretty self-explanatory, but it could be a useful weapon to have. It does cost 2 totems instead of 1, but only functions as one single totem. So the cost of turning it into the sword is essentially doubling the price of using it as a Totem of Undying. Also, because the item is actually a Totem of Undying, you cannot enchant it, which is probably good because you would lose all the enchantments you put into it anyway when you die. Alright, next sword. I'm funny, guys, I swear. Let's take a look at another pretty simple sword, the Honey Sword. The Honey Sword can be crafted pretty much exactly how you would expect. 2 honey blocks and a stick. This will give us a Honey Sword, which can slow down the target, but the actual attack damage is very low, and the swing rate is quite slow. So let's summon our trusty testing cow and smack it with the Honey Sword. You can see it is quite terrified of me and it will attempt to run away, but it leaves a honey trail behind, which looks really cool in my opinion, and it is slowed for a short amount of time before it can resume its normal speed. So now when I punch it, it will run at normal speed. You can see the swing rate, like I said, is really slow. So this cannot exactly be used as a weapon. The damage is pretty low too. So this is more of like a support sword. Maybe you have like your actual sword on you and you use this occasionally to try to slow down mobs to then attack with your real sword. Pretty simple, but I think pretty cool. Alright, moving along, we have the Critical Hit Sword. This one is a pretty cool idea in my opinion. To craft it, we take an iron sword and we add 2 diamonds to it. This will make one side of the blade be diamonds, but the other is iron. This gives us a sword that deals iron sword damage of 6, but it can land a critical hit if you get lucky enough to swing with the diamond side of the blade. It's a 1/6 chance to get a critical, and so let's take a look at that. We can summon in our cow and smack it, and you can see we got it first try. There's a little flash that appears, as well as the fact that we killed it in 1 hit. Pretty much shows that it's a critical hit. The critical hit deals a lot of damage. Alright, so now we have a group of husks. Let's try this out. So, ooh, another first try. Well, it looks like we got lucky, but now our luck has run out. And so, this is just an iron sword at this point. It does have diamond sword durability, because we did put 2 diamonds in it. So, overall, it's a fairly useful sword, but also not overpowered or anything. It just brings in a bit of luck to the game that is normally completely missing. Okay, next sword. Am I allowed to use the same joke twice? No? Okay, I'll leave. I'll leave. But actually, onto a bit of a joke sword. It is the swordfish. When I realized that there was a pun to be made, I simply had to make it. So, that is how the swordfish came to be. To craft it, we take a stick, put a raw cod on there, and then a pufferfish on the end. And with that, we get a pretty inexpensive, yet somewhat powerful sword. It only does 4 damage because it's a fish, but it can poison our target. So, let's grab a cow, like always, smack it with the fish, and now it's poisoned, and it will take 4 points of damage from that, leading the sword to do 8 damage. That's fairly high, but because it's poison, if we summon a husk, you can see the husk will not get poisoned. So I'm going to have to smack him quite a few times. Quite a few mobs in Minecraft cannot be poisoned, such as spiders, zombies, husks, skeletons, really anything that's undead. So this isn't going to be particularly useful in fighting off hostile mobs because most of them are poison immune, except for creepers. In the case of a creeper, do you really want a sword that doesn't deal with them quickly? Because it means you still have to hit them quite a few times. So again, kind of a funny sword, mostly just there for the pun. Now the next sword is the Chorus Fruit Sword, and it is pretty useless. I really don't know why you would want to use this sword, but I like the idea enough to make it anyway. So just a stick and 2 Chorus Fruit. Very cheap. Because of that, it only does 6 damage, equivalent to an iron sword. You still had to get to the end, so I figured it should at least do iron sword damage. It also has iron sword durability, because it is, in fact, an iron sword. However, its special ability is that it can randomly teleport mobs occasionally. It's not consistent at all, because it's a random chance, and they will get teleported to a random location. So it just got teleported over there. Now, is this actually useful? I would say probably not. It could occasionally get you out of a sticky situation, but it could also get you into one. Like, suppose I'm fighting a creeper. I hit it with the sword, and it teleports behind me. Was that useful? No, it was not. So, yeah, it's a good concept. Probably not a sword that I would actually recommend using, though. Kind of like the next one, the Cursed Sword. The Cursed Sword might be the most overpowered sword on this list, while also being the worst, if that makes any sense. Let's look at the crafting recipe. So, it's just a stick and 2 soul sand. Now you have a sword that deals, what? 13 damage. Now, it's 13 because that's a unlucky number from what I've been told. And, let's see, if I crit with it, it will instantly kill mobs. So, pretty overpowered, right? Well, it would be, but I gave it a downside. And it's a pretty rough downside. Let's see if I can actually get it to work. There we go. So, did you see that? I took 3 hearts of damage from a recoil. Let's see if I can have it happen again. There we go. 3 hearts of damage taken for just using the sword. So now you might be saying, well, that's not too bad. 3 hearts of damage is manageable. Just get some diamond armor and it won't do anything, right? Wrong. So let's start spam clicking with this so I don't actually kill the mob. And you'll see, when the recoil happens, I still took 3 hearts. So yeah, probably not a sword that you really should be using, but it could be a useful early game sword, I guess. Just, it could definitely kill you. So, be careful there. The true damage just makes it rough because there's no way to avoid taking 3 hearts of damage occasionally, and that's a lot. But I mean, that's exactly the balance I was going for. Make it so that the 13 damage is really high, which makes it quite, I guess, alluring to actually want to use it, but at the same time, there's a pretty major risk involved. Okay, on to the XP Sword. The XP Sword is a very powerful sword for farming. Because of this, we need 8 XP diamonds. So, if we take a look at how you craft those, it's a diamond in the middle, surrounded by 4 XP bottles. We will need 8 of these. Using these 8 XP diamonds, we can surround a diamond sword to then get an XP sword. Alright, so that's a pretty expensive recipe, so what do we get? We get a diamond sword. But it makes mobs drop more experience. What does this sword allow us to do? Well, if we have a mob and we hit it, it will drop experience. It will only do it once, and after that, when it dies, it will drop its regular amount. This allows us to get a little bit more experience from every mob that we kill. What this means, though, is if we have a mob farm, pretend this is a mob farm, and then we hit these, we'll get a fair amount of extra experience. This could be quite useful in just slightly increasing the output of your mob grinders. And of course, when we kill the mobs, like, legitimately, they will drop the normal amount of experience. Overall, I think the recipe is fairly balanced for the utility, because this could be quite powerful, especially with mending. Alright, so those are the swords that I'm going to show off in this video. A couple things to note though. For administrators, you can run this function, so function WASD.sword, give items, and you will give yourself every sword that we add with these packs. This is actually a case for pretty much every data pack we make. You can run the function of the pack name, so for example, apple give items. This is from our apples data pack, and it will give you those items as well. Alright, something else to note. Suppose you like the pack, but maybe you think the XP sword is too overpowered, or maybe the God sword should not be in the game. Well, we have settings. You can run the function was.sword/settings to bring up the settings, or upon /reload, you can click the settings button. This will bring up crafting settings. And we have craftable settings for every single sword added by the pack. These are toggleable, so you can disable or enable the recipes. It will not enable or disable the actual sword, only the crafting recipe. This is actually probably a good thing, especially for you server owners, because maybe you really like the swords and their functionality, but you don't want any of the crafting recipes. You could make those yourself, or give them away as a gift item. Maybe only people on your server that are like at a drop party or something get the item. Or maybe they need to complete a quest. It's completely up to you. So, configure the settings how you like. So, that is the end of the video. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you very much. I'll be covering the remaining 8 swords in an upcoming video very soon, so make sure you hit the subscribe button so you do not miss it. Anyway, this has been Admin, and I am out. Thank you guys for watching.